Welcome back to Wake Up Epic. Let's start with the embodied story for the 56th. We're looking at distraction, the shadow of distraction, and the gift of enrichment. And we're going to explore what that is and go through 4 different possibility activations so that we can find our own way with this archetype that's called the comedian. I'm Alex Iglesias, I'm the creator of Being Epic. When we step into this embodied story, we start with field, which is to say forward, down, and wide with our body. So try this out, forward, down, wide. And you can do this sitting or standing. You're coming forward into this space where we're more together than not. We're down, where we're more listening, more sensitive than active. And then we're wide, where there's a bit more perspective. So a field, or the embodiment of field, is an opportunity to explore what's it like to be together. And there's one interesting distinction here, because if we came narrow, this might be, I'm just here with you. When we take our arms wider, we're shifting the focus to, well, what's it like to be with you? So think about how you are with yourself. And then think about, what is it like to be with yourself? And you look around the space. Look at something that catches your attention. There's a vase over there, it's caught my attention. And go narrow with that object, with that item. Just be in it. And then go wide and inquire, well, what's it like to be with that? How's it feel to be with that? What do you think about being with that? So that's the contrast we're playing with and the opportunity when we start with field. So the embodied story starts with, in a world of field, if we're supported by field, if we are together where it's okay to be together, if it's good to gather, then we step into our conscious choice of cradle, back, down, and wide. We shift back and away from the screen, down, sensing, relaxing, and then wide, like with field, but now the attention is over here with yourself. And the question is something more like, well, what's it like to be with me? What's it like to be with you? Ideally, cradle is an opportunity to practice, to train liking yourself, loving yourself, valuing yourself. When I would teach self-defense in Boston in about 2000, we had a tagline, when a life depends on it. And this was a critical principle. When a life depends on it. If I value my life, what will I do for that? If you value what you own and have in your life, what will you stand for? And so this cradle place, for today especially, when the shadow is distraction, what is it you value about yourself? Let me say it this way. What don't you like or value about yourself that causes distraction? Where is it difficult to be with yourself that lets you keep being distracted? And in contrast, enrichment, the gift of today, enrichment. What's wonderful and valuable about you that enriches you? It brings you in more, that says, oh, I want more of this. More, please. Move back and forth between cradle and field a few times. Slow enough that you can feel the shift. Your attention goes out. What's it like to be out here? And then you can turn and shift your attention in. What's it like to be with myself? And gently hold these 2 words, distraction and enrichment, just to notice for now, which one feels more readily available? Are you more distractible? Does it feel rich and wanting more? Just notice where that is for you. So somewhere, we are somewhere on the spectrum of, oh my God, when I want to connect with myself and connect with you, I'm getting distracted. And it might be something as simple as, there's something I don't like about myself, some sort of shame or some sort of judgment. There's often judgment with cradle because on one hand, we're holding space for what we care about. It's a boundary. And the other hand, sometimes we go, ugh, that's bad. And that becomes a justification to protect. There's a lot with cradle. Now I want to share two more concepts before we go into the deeper activation. The first one comes from Human Design. Human Design's description of the 56 is stimulation. Stimulation is the energy that brings ideas and past events into expression, often through stories. So imagine feeling stimulated in a way that you can bring ideas about your past into expression, maybe through a story or some other form. Is the energy of a storyteller. And it's great for teaching and framing information that could be abstract. So we're going from abstract to something that might be more valuable and relevant and direct, more enriching. And so that cohesive pieces can be remembered. So I was working with a colleague earlier where he kept abstractifying his information. He's trying to help people with burnout. But then he would talk about being reactive. Well, being reactive is a bit abstract. The moment he says, like, I can't look at myself in the mirror, now we're getting relevant. I can't deal with my colleagues. I get angry when they ask me for help. Those are all direct, relevant. I understand it. That enriches me. I'm connected to you. It says, hey, you're reacting. It's abstract, doesn't land, not helpful, not immediately valuable. So there's something we do where instead of being like, hey, I don't like myself, I need help, I am having a hard time at work, challenges, actually talking about what's going on for us, sharing our insecurities, where we're able to be down and sensing and real, that instead of that, we can get distracted and abstractify something. And it's just really interesting to pay attention to that, because then the abstract stuff can't be delivered as a story. And we need to get at the level of, I was walking down the street and I stepped in a pile of poo, literally, and I was really upset, and tell a real story. The second thing I wanted just to name is that the archetype here is the comedian. And as I was exploring the comedian energy with a few folks, we noticed that what does a comedian do? Tells a story, often somewhat self-effacing, kind of turning their own shame and challenge and insecurity into some sort of insight. They're able to be with what most people won't be with. And they turn it into a story that bonds with other people, that gets people laughing in their belly. And that's very different than, let's say, a philosophy teacher, where we're not exactly going to create a bond and a laughter and a fire and a storytelling and meals in the same way. So there's something about comedian, this capacity to self-reflect, recognize the humor, the joke, the insight, and share it with others in a relevant way. And so from the point of view of UZAZU, we extract 4 different activation statements. They're all about learning new ways of relating to yourself by being with people. So one last time, reflect on the movement. Relating to yourself while being with people is part of the essence of what we're playing with here. How can I relate to myself? While I'm with people. How can being with people help me learn about myself? So with this in mind, we'll go through the 4 activation statements, about a minute and a half each, do a slightly deep dive into them. We'll have a 5th round of just silence with no activation statement to see what is emerging and to distill it. And then a final 6th round of sharing it, bringing it into that eldership that we all have to inform with our own wisdom. Here we go. The first statement is as we speak them, you can modify the language and just keep moving at your own pace with cradle and field. I can allow the cultures that I experience to enrich my inner well-being. I can allow the cultures that I experience to enrich my inner well-being. The next activation. I can learn new ways of relating to myself by being with different people. I can learn new ways of relating to myself by being with different people. What's something you've ever learned about yourself because you were with different people? Our third activation. I can feel safe and secure in new places and situations. I can feel safe and secure in new places and situations. Where is a place you've avoided because you thought you wouldn't feel safe, that if you could feel safe, you could step into that unfamiliar new place? And our fourth and final. I can seek out people and groups who accept and appreciate me as I am. I can seek out people in groups who accept and appreciate me as I am. Where have you not gone? Who have you not been with? Because you're afraid of not being accepted and appreciated. How could that change today? Our fifth round will be silence. So with everything, just trusting everything and being in the background, let the movement lead you and observe what's emerging. So let the body lead now. To come to a close, let the movement start to wind down, find a finish. Notice what your experience is now and what's the takeaway? What's the wisdom? What did you notice and discover that if you shared it as an idea, if you shared it as a story, would make a difference for you and other people? Now is our sixth and final round to share. If you're doing this on your own, that's a great time to journal or to speak some stuff out loud, sing a song to yourself, or go for a walk. We'll take a minute to share. So where are you now? Who are you now?
I had the picture of I have just come back from a family gathering, and and that was sort of part of my connecting with all these different members of the different families. And the image of the last round, when it was just in quiet, was no matter what I have here, all of this fallibility and wonder is no different from what I bring to the people I'm around and what they can feed into me. Like there's a porous quality, like water, between my sense of my own self and the collective. So so the story is water, if it's a story. And the abstract thought is that I really don't need to change when I'm in relationship to other people. I can be exactly as I am, and I can allow them to be what they are as they come into me. Like no translation. That's what I got.
That's lovely. I love that. I like the water and the porousness, because just that imagery seems to like make it possible to connect to people more easily if there's water that's porous, or the barriers are porous, rather than there's a barrier I have to cross, or a thing I have to figure out, or a way to approach people, and all the other stuff. Yeah, so just even imagining, let's be at a networking event or social gathering, and just imagine we're on water and it's porous and able to move. It's a lovely image that goes with it. Great distillation. Beautiful. For me, I think one of the things I ended with was this sort of like the contrast between what I think, who I think I should be helping, who I think I should be serving, why I think that I'm doing what I'm doing, and more real reasons. So for example, in these wake up epics, there's often 1 or 2 people. And my mind would be like, I would love to have 50 people. And the truth is, I do really good work one-on-one. And when I do have a group, like when I used to teach yoga classes, there'd be the sense of like going around and finding like what's needed, what's truly needed by you today. And let's say 5 out of 30 people would answer. Mostly like, oh, shoulder stuff and this and that, but some people would go a little deeper. Well, the people who spoke up were the ones who I could weave into the structure of the class. It's like, so the people who were willing to speak up with a question or a need became the journey that we went on. And yeah, it was 5 out of 10, 5 out of 30 people, or in this case, 1 person. So there's this sense of gathering. And I love that you mentioned gathering, because one of the inspirations that I've had is, well, I've called the epic map. If we get together to do an epic map session or retreat, let's call it a greater world gathering. Because what we're doing is we're coming together, dropping our barriers, sharing our own words, which is to say sharing our contribution. And then sort of discovering, emerging what's now possible. It's like, well, what is the greater world that you're here to create or contribute to, even if that's like family dinners, that doesn't need to be a big, economic empire. And so, so this notion of like, well, even the idea of like creating videos and things to teach or to sell is a different attitude than, hey, let's create a gathering experience for people. And so what if instead of a workshop, let's say, oh, I'm going to do a workshop and teach you X, Y, Z. Well, the truth is that's never really how I functioned, and it's never how my classes have never been. But the idea of, well, let's gather our resources and see what's possible in the most direct and beautiful way together. Well, that's always the nature of my work with people. So that's where it took me. All right, this seems like a good place to end. So wherever, for everyone watching this, share in the comments, what's your takeaway? And thanks for being epic, for going on the journey. And I want to remind you that if you take these movements and you play with them, you dive into them a little bit more over the next few days, the one thing I can guarantee is you will get a lot of yourself out of it. So thanks for being epic, and until next time.